All right. So the next two lectures, this one and the following one, we're going to talk about branding and marketing. And I would like to start with some fun. So we're going to show you a short clip. And we will discuss the short clip, and then we will move to our lecture.
Build it, he will come.
Oh, people will come, right? People will most definitely come.
They're right at your door, as innocent as children. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it.
I have just created something totally illogical.
It's a good baseball field, right?
It's kind of pretty, isn't it?
People will come, Ray.
I'm completely nuts.
Sometimes, when you believe the impossible, the incredible comes true. Field of Dreams.
So this is Ray. He's an Iowa farmer. He lives in the middle of these endless cornfields. And he's a huge, huge baseball fan. So he admires all of those baseball heroes from 50 years before. They are already dead. And one night he hears, if you build it, he will come. So he interprets it as an instruction. And he builds this baseball field. And unbelievable to his astonishment, all of those heroes and gurus show up in his field. Okay, so that's the framework. And just so that now you understand the context, I'll show it again because it's funny. All right, so now that I entertained you, does anybody have an idea why I'm showing that clip? What is the sentence they keep repeating?
If you build it, it will come.
No, he will come. He will come. Who is he?
Who is he?
Maybe the investor, maybe
Maybe the Mabur of the Messiah.
Okay. I'll help you because none of you figure it out, and it's not surprising, okay? He is a typical entrepreneur. That's what he is. He's a typical entrepreneur. If I build it, they will come. The customers, the money. All I need is this great idea, and the moment I show you it works, that's it. It's done. They will come. Right? All of you nod. Life. Life is, if nobody heard about you, nobody will come. That's the reality of life. And what I'm going to teach you this lesson, or this lecture, is the real work of an entrepreneur is not building your product, having an idea. Irrelevant. Literally irrelevant. The real work you have to do is get to your customers, or even better, get your customers to come to you. So sorry I'm ruining all of these innovation ideas and everything. If you want to build a business, it's about customers. If you want to play with ideas, that's okay, you are in the right school. But if you really want to build a business, which means customers paying you money, then you have to think about your customers. What we're going to talk about is branding. And we're going to spend 2 lectures on it, this lecture and the following lecture, because it's a very, very big and important lesson. And 99% of entrepreneurs I talk to don't know what I'm talking about. Literally don't have a clue what I'm talking about. So if there's anything I want you to take from your 2 years in here or 3 years in here, is this lesson. Think about your prospects and your customers. So what is a brand? And I'm giving you kind of the summary of the issues I'm going to touch in this lecture, and then I'll give you those, and then I'll repeat it like every good teacher, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So we're going to do exactly that. What's the difference between branding and marketing? We'll talk about that. And why start with branding when you haven't developed the product yet, or even a concept or a prototype? Remember, I say start with branding first. You don't have a product, okay? How do you create a brand? How much does it cost to create and sustain a brand? You know, you're not going to spend $5 million to start creating a brand, but you don't have a product and you don't have a revenue stream. So we will talk about fairly inexpensive ways of building and creating a brand. And what are the benefits of it? So when people know about you, chances are they won't answer the phone or open your email or talk to you. If they don't do that, they will just delete it or don't answer your call. And there's this whole concept of beachheads, which I'm not going to go deeply into. It's a whole different subject, which is the customers are not uniform. It's not like one big uniform universe that all of them will buy from. Customers come in many different types. Some of them really need and want what you do or respond to what you do. Many don't. So you want to find out those that respond, and the best way of doing it is kind of spread the word, and the people who are interested raise their hand. These are called beachheads. So the other thing is you figure out a process for lead generation at a low cost. So once you start building a brand, the move from a brand to marketing to generating leads is relatively straightforward. And it also, the interesting thing is when you try to build a brand or you work on building a brand and people start responding to you, many times you realize that your original idea was so-so, but the market really wants something adjacent to it, different than it. Doesn't really matter, but you hear a lot of this feedback way before you start spending money on development. Once you start developing your product and hiring people, you are already spending a lot of money every month. So you want to hear the feedback before you do that. And many times you even pivot the company because of that. It creates intrinsic value. The most obvious one is Facebook, right? They didn't make money from you, but creating this community, creating people that come to their site, created value. So when you build a brand, it always have a value. And I'll give you examples later on. We're going to discuss various ways or methods for brand creation. And let's start with what is a brand. So the brand is something kind of not very clear. But basically, it's that your prospects are the people you plan to sell to, right? They are not your customers yet because they never heard about you. But those are the people you want to influence. So your prospects know your name. Okay? Somehow, because of what you did, they are aware of your name. They vaguely know something about what you do or the areas you are interested in. They don't have a really clear idea. They're not ready to buy or anything, but they kind of know about you. And they have a positive feeling. There are a lot of known people or entities that you hate. That's easy, okay? You want people to have a positive attitude towards what they hear about you. That's a brand, okay? It's a far cry from selling, where you explain exactly what it is, what it does, how much it costs. This is way before it. Marketing, on the other hand, is the process of lead generation. So that's a much more advanced stage where you want people to raise their hand, say, I'm interested in buying, and then you have a way to contact them. They leave their phone number, they leave their email address or whatever. So that's what marketing is all about. If you go to a marketing department, that's what they try to do. Very few people or companies in the high-tech industry, the innovation industry, think about branding. They think about marketing. There are other industries where they only talk about brand. If you are a designer, you have only a brand, right? A clothes designer or whatever. If you produce a perfume, you know, it's a brand. There's nothing in it. It's a little bit of chemicals. But they create a brand. So what I'm trying to tell you is, even in high tech, when you sell B2B, brand is absolutely important. Okay? So think about the brands you know, Nike and so forth, and think about when you sell this CRM B2B, how do you create a brand? It sounds almost like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about a brand for CRM. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? So the branding is the bedrock and the foundation for successful and cost-effective lead generation. So if you go in that sequence, start with building a brand, thinking about how you build a brand, and we will talk about it the whole hour, how you build a brand. It makes your marketing efforts so much easier. And I will show you examples later on from work that other people did and from what we did at SmartUp. So let's start with the old-fashioned way. Before we had computers, before we thought about all of that stuff. So here's an idea. A paint, you know, they produce paints and they came up with the idea, let's give these shops, hardware shops, a sign to put on the store. You're all familiar with it, right? So here are a few more examples, right? You can see it everywhere you go. So then what happened? Anybody can guess what happened afterwards? 2 points. 2 points. Wonderful. You see, that's when you know you're successful, right? You put your name, and that's a paint company, not a brand, okay? We're not talking about a perfume or anything. It's just stupid paints on the wall, okay? So here are all the tamburiots, and then look what happened. There's a competitor. And the store has a split personality. On the one side, they have the tambur, and the other side, they have the nirlat. And now there's a question. What do you do with the word? You know, the narlet? I don't know. So the tamburia is already taken. Nobody's going to call it narletia or something, all right? But think about it for a second. The sign on the stores had very little to do with paint. I'm just trying to explain to you the concept of a brand, okay? You know later on that it's about paints, but they put a sign on the store. You now have a connection. Yeah, if I go to a hardware store, tambur is kind of correlated to it. And it's a good company probably because everybody put the sign. So if everybody puts the sign, something positive must be, right? So think about what I said before and you realize how they've accomplished it with this concept. Very, very simple concept, tremendously powerful and very cost effective. Cost them virtually nothing to do. By the way, nowadays, I think the stores charge them money for putting the sign, not the other way around. For the obvious reasons, okay? All right, let's take a few more examples. I want to start showing you how people did these ideas and take you through that. So John Deere was founded in 1834. That's almost 200 years ago. And that was before we had tractors and cars and whatever. And they were producing plows, high quality steel plows for farmers. But then came the end of the century, and they wanted to go into tractors, and they needed to somehow create a brand. So what they did is they produced a magazine called the Pharaoh. Pharaoh is just a charitz ba'adama, whatever you call it, like telem, exactly. So they launched it in 1895 when they launched the tractors, the first tractors that they had. And the magazine became so successful that it reached 4 million readers by 1912. And it's still in circulation today with a global audience of over 1.5 million. So what they created is a brand through creating a magazine. You can see many other companies doing the same idea. Okay, so you create content. Think about it. Today we all talk about content. We're now talking 130 years ago. Ideas are there. You just have to think about them, whether it is Tamburiya or a magazine. All of these ideas were used before very successfully. So let's start to do some guesses. Anybody knows this brand? What is it? Watches, right? Right. Are these watches just showing the time?
No, it's the luxurious.
It's a status symbol. You see my Rolex? That's my Rolex, okay? I'm an anti-Rolex, so the cheaper the watch, the better, because I want to show that I don't care for it. What's that? Good. I specifically took the name out. Good guess. Well, that's easy, right? It says Yahoo. It must be Yahoo.
Louis Vuitton.
Guys, you are brand fanatics.
TikTok.
What I wanted to show you is the power of brand, right? You see something like that, and all of you scream, TikTok, Louis Vuitton, Rolex. I know exactly what it is, right? The power of that. So let's keep the game. Who are the Kardashians? Anybody here doesn't know who Kardashians are? All of you know. Great. What's unique about them?
Nothing.
What's unique about the Kardashians?
They took a scandal and made it into a good marketing, maybe, that became a good brand.
Guys, the Kardashians are geniuses. Fact of the matter is, in this class, far away from big America, all of you know who they are, and all they have to their name is, I won't say it because many girls here, but something about their body, right? So we'll skip that. And a huge brain, because they turned these assets into a marketing machine, into a brand machine, okay? Who is Elon Musk? Everybody knows, okay. Who is Akio Toyoda? Anybody knows? Raise your hand. You don't know? You're good. I'm very impressed. But yeah, he is the heir and CEO of Toyota, which is much bigger than.
But why did he change the D to T?
I don't know. To ask him. I don't
Just
know.
a lawsuit. Did you hear about it? There was a customer who won a prize, and they said that the store said if you win this, you get a Toyota. And she got a Toyota. She got a Yoda doll.
So I just wanted to show you the difference. All of you know who Elon Musk is, but only one person guessed, I guess, it's you, right?
No.
You knew it?
Oh, yeah.
You should come in here. But I'll give you a few more of these. Okay. Who is Jeff Bezos? Who doesn't know who Jeff Bezos is? You don't know? Okay. He's the founder and CEO of Amazon. Okay? And who is Andy Jassy? Guys, who is Andy Jassy? I'll give you a guess. He's somehow related to Jeff Bezos. Okay, I'll tell you. No. So Jeff Bezos was the founder. Now he's the chairman. And he brought in the guy who created and launched AWS. That's the guy, Andy Jassy, and he's now the CEO of Amazon. So what I wanted to show you is two people, same job, right? Jeff Bezos and Andy. You know one, you don't know the other. There's a reason why I'm giving you all of these. To show you how mysterious is the whole concept of brand creation. Why Jeff Bezos has this huge brand, and Elon Musk and Akio Toyoda, only one person knew. Okay? Okay, 3 people knew. I'll give you that. But don't worry, I will give you a few you don't know. What is Blue Origin? Blue Origin. Shame on you. What? Wonderful. One guy knew, right? That Jeff Bezos started it, and it's the competitor, the largest competitor of SpaceX, which is why I gave the hint later on, right? So everybody knows what SpaceX is. Only one guy knew what Blue Origin is, even though they compete head to head. Okay. Who is David Limp? Okay, I'll start asking another question. Who is the CEO of SpaceX?
David Limp.
I tricked you guys. So SpaceX, obviously, it's Elon Musk, and David Limp is the CEO of Blue Origin. Mark Zuckerberg, anybody doesn't know who he is? Okay. Who is Zhang Yiming? Good. Who is Jack Ma? Alibaba. You see? מה זה 8200? Albert Einstein, we all know, right? Who is Niels Bohr? Guys, who is Niels Bohr? I'm ashamed of you. He's the father of quantum mechanics. So at the beginning of the 20th century, there were 2 luminaries, Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. You all know Albert Einstein, and none of you knew Niels Bohr. Because Albert Einstein was also a genius at branding. You have to admit it. Okay? So I think I've convinced you with one thing. Branding is tremendously powerful. The Kardashians are making gazillion money. Elon Musk is making tons of money out of it. And it's not that simple to understand why some people can create a brand easily and other people, nobody knows about them. So now that I have established the difficulty in creating a brand, we will move on to learn some ways of building a brand. Okay? Can't promise you that it will work, but at least we know what we are lacking and missing if we are not successful. So this is the usual marketing funnel that you will learn in every business school. What is a funnel? A funnel is where you start with strangers and you end up with customers. Okay, that's the funnel. You take them step by step down the funnel, and hopefully at the end they start generating cash to you. So the first 2 steps are awareness and engagement. What's the difference between them? Awareness is, I heard about them, okay? And engagement is, I walk into the store, the hardware store, and I say, guys, I need some paint for the walls, and they say, we have Nirlat, and we have Tambur, and which one do you prefer? And you say, I don't know the difference. That's engagement, okay? You are not ready to buy, but you start dealing with the concept of maybe I need something, okay? Then comes consideration. Okay, which one do I take, Nirlat or Tambour? So tell me about the difference between them. So that's consideration. Conversion is when I say, okay, I'll buy the Nirlat one, and so forth and so on. Retention is that the paint stays on the wall, okay? Just a joke. All right. So what my suggestion is that before you build a product or a proof of concept or a prototype, invest the little money you have as a wannabe entrepreneur with launching branding activities. That's a radical suggestion. 99.9% of the entrepreneurs I meet, they say, I need a few $100,000 to build my proof of concept, prototype, blah, blah, whatever it is. And I say, why? And he says, what do you mean, why? It's so obvious that the question is like, what do you want from me? It's obvious. I need to build the product, or else what am I going to sell? And the answer to them is, if you build it, they will buy. Okay, so you build it. Now you and I know you have a product. What about your customers? Did they ever hear about it? Do they know it? Do they need it? Are they going to respond? This question never comes up. So what I'm saying is start with these ideas, and I will show you a few examples of it. So when you do that, you will find you create value. You develop a marketing funnel that I said before, right? You start with awareness. You gain deeper understanding of the market. You identify potential beachheads. Why? Because if people start to interact with you and respond to what you do, you are light years ahead of having a prototype. There's nothing you can do with the prototype except maybe try to raise money. But if the big market starts to respond to you, you are a somebody, you are a Kardashian, even if you are a man. So that's a big accomplishment. Additional values is you identify potential revenue streams, and I will show an example of one of the companies I'm working with. And definitely it will be much easier to raise money. Why? Because at the end of the day, investors put money and they want to get money out. Hopefully 10 times what they put in. And the more sophisticated ones understand that just having a product that works is still the first step in a long journey. But if you already show that you are talking with a lot of potential customers and they come to you and they come to your website and you have a conversation with them, the people who are slightly more sophisticated will take that as a much bigger accomplishment than just having a prototype. The other thing is that the brand takes a long time. Why does it take a long time? Because if I want you and you and you and you and you and you to know about me, then I need to go and talk to you and you and you and you, and it does take time. That's all. Remember that a brand should be something that is long-lasting. It's not like a flash in the pot. You know, people heard about you for a minute and then they forget. So you need to be present for a long period of time for people to start knowing who you are. So better start early. That's the title of this lecture. Branding first. Start with that because it's going to take you a long time. The big mistake that virtually all startup companies do is they start by building the product. How do you build the product? You hire a few engineers or whatever it is, a designer, a UX, blah, 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 product manager. Before you know it, you have a team of 20 people. I checked, and the 20 people on the first of the month want their salary. It's even illegal not to pay the salaries. And if each one of them wants $10,000 a month and you have 20 people, you have $200,000 a month, even during the holidays. That's just the salaries. So chances are you spend $300,000 a month on offices and travel and whatever. And that's before you talk to a single customer. So by the time you get to building the brand, you already spent $4 or $5 million and you're at a run rate of expenses that can kill you. It takes a long time to build a brand. If you start with it, then by the time your product is ready, you already understand how to sell it. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you start selling or start branding before you have a product? I know that's the question you're all asking yourself. Wow, he keeps talking and talking and talking. So I'll give you an example. Sure.
I think like one of the main advantages of building a brand first is sharpening your USP. Because once you know your unique selling proposition, your production stage will be much more streamlined to the shortest vector.
That is correct. But chances are that by the time you are going through the branding, your product changes. Happened to me all the time. So in a lot of ways, you really don't start developing the product before you understand.
That's what I said. By doing the branding, you know that your competition is this and that, and you should go there and not there.
Absolutely.
Start the product in the right way.
Absolutely. But let me bring you a few examples of what we discussed before, okay? So the two examples I gave you, the Tambouria sign and the Pharaoh, both of them have nothing to do with tractors or paint. Nothing, right? So you can really start launching that way before you have a product, because the correlation between the sign and the paints, it happened the other way, that first they had the paint and then they had the signs, but you can do it the other way around and it will still work. Have nothing to do with it. Same goes with the tractors and the magazine. Okay? The order is kind of arbitrary. So what do? You focus on the problem you're trying to solve, not on your solution. People confuse the two things. The problem and the solution. They are two different things. If you focus on the problem, you have a lot to talk about. And people will start talking to you because they have the problem or they don't have the problem, right? And you can be a consultant about the problem. You can do statistics about the problems. You can do a lot of things about the problem. But then you start engaging with those people that will respond to the problem. Chances are they do have the problem you're trying to solve. Okay? Another thing is, think what else might be interesting to your prospects. Think again about the magazine. Okay? They sell tractors. The magazine was about growing all kinds of things. So they talk about the kinds of seeds that you want to do, irrigation, diseases, whatever. Has nothing to do with tractors. And once they build that, they can start expanding to these areas. They can start selling advertising in the magazine. They can start doing a lot of things because now they have a captive audience, which is all the farmers who read the magazine. So I want to talk about a few methodologies that are actionable. So at the end of the day, you want to understand, not just hear about it, but you want to have a few examples. SEO, search engine optimization. I'll talk about what is a long tail. Explain to you how can you create a very effective advertising or branding through that. And that's what we're going to do in this lecture. The other one is free products, especially with a viral engagement element. We will not talk about it this time, we'll talk about it next time. And thought leadership. The Pharaoh magazine is the thought leadership, right? They position themselves as, we understand what farmers go through. We can help you, farmers, to get better results. And I'm still looking for ideas. So anyone who come up with ideas for branding, I'll be delighted to hear. Okay, what is an SEO? Search engine optimization. It's almost synonymous with the word Google, right? So what do you want to do? You want to put some content on the web, and you hope that by the time people start searching for something, your content will show up first. The only problem is that virtually everybody who writes content want to show up first. So there are about 2 million people who want to show up first, and Google, for whatever reason, chooses only one. So you are in a very hard competition, right? So we'll talk about how you solve this problem. So, for example, if you are a patent lawyer and you write content about how to file a patent, chances are that about every other patent lawyer in the US wrote the same content, you know. So there's nothing unique about it, and therefore, very, very quickly, somebody is going to take the first place, and because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So once Google sees that people go to that site, they will keep showing it higher and higher. So you're going to be out of luck. So Google presents pages that are proven to have high quality. And that is very, very important, okay? Because I'll get to it in a moment. Google's philosophy is very, very simple. They're not fighting with you. What they're trying to do, and that's why they're so successful, is they're focused on giving the best possible answer to people who run a search. That's their mission in life. Remember the infinite game from last week? That's their infinite game. They keep improving all the time. What they want is that when you go to the computer and you start typing in Google, you're going to be elated, right? So what they do is you start typing and already they show you what else, and you can choose. You don't have to type everything. By the time you click on it, the answer is there. They move from showing you web pages to showing you answers, right? You say, movies in Rishon LeZion, boom, you get a list of the movies. They don't send you to a website. They just show you the movies, right? You type a name of a product. They show you all the advertisement for the product. They try to make users elated. So the whole world wants to spam Google, and so Google relies on users. Google is a phenomenal learning machine. They look at what users do, and if they click on a link, go to your website, and go back within a second, Google said, wrong content. And if they consistently see in a day or two that everybody who went to your site came out after a second, Google will not show you again, ever. Because you have disappointed their users, and that's a huge sin in Google's vocabulary. If, on the other hand, people who clicked on the link, got to your site, stayed there, or stayed there for 2 minutes, and user after user stayed in your site for 2 minutes, Google loves it. That's why they have Chrome, by the way. When they invented Chrome and put Chrome on every desk, was so that they can control not just when you are in the Google thing, you are always in Google. And now you even sign into Google. So when you are in Chrome, they know who you are even. Okay, so the big brother, sister, mother, father, everything combined, looking at you all the time. In most cases, they use it to improve the value. So now I'm talking about a publisher, a person who wants to compete for first place in Google. The best way to think about Google is not as your enemy that you compete against, but as your asset, as your friend. What can I do so that people who search for something will stay on my site because I give them value? Remember the word value, value, value all the time. So let's talk about long tail. Long tail is a very, very simple concept. When people search, what do they search for? So they can search for just a concept, patent lawyer, or they can write a whole paragraph about what they're looking for. I'm looking for a patent lawyer for a new screwdriver that I invented. Okay, so you're very, very specific. Obviously, if you write patent lawyers, then everybody and his brother and mother and sister compete with you. If you start talking about patents for screwdriver, then very, very high chance that nobody else wrote about patents for screwdrivers, okay? So the head words are the short one, okay? And here's an example: necklace, laptop, high search volume, intense competition, and lower conversion rate, which means people who type in necklace, they're going to screen the page, and chances are they are not going to convert. Long tail keywords, usually longer phrases like 18-inch silver necklace with a pendant. When you do that, the competition is much lower. And the chances that the people will buy are much higher because they are looking for something specific. You talk about that something specific, chances are they will convert to become a customer. The problem is the second line, low search volume. That's the problem, right? So you want a long tail. You want to have content about 18-inch, 19-inch, 20-inch, 21-inch. Each one of them should have a page, right? With a pendant, without a pendant, with this, without this. It's endless. How are you going to create so much content? That's the problem. So here's the statistics about it, okay? How many keywords? The top 10,000 keywords make up less than 20% of overall search. 70% come from long tail keywords, okay? Very specific. So you really want to be in these long phrases. And the question is, how do you do that? So I bring here a quote, Chris Anderson, editor-in-chief of Wired magazine. The best way to dominate the web in the face of stiff competition is to optimize for long tail search. Okay, what's the problem? As I said, each keyword is low frequency and you need to have a lot of keywords. So how do you cost effectively create thousands, if not millions of pages? Any idea? Yes, you wrote a blog, a single blog. You have a single one. How is it continuous? Remember, you need that people type in long phrases and they need to get to your place. Any other ideas? Yes. Hidden pages. What's written in the hidden page? Okay, so you have a hidden page. Your page is about what is a patent lawyer, and you have gazillion hidden pages that have nothing about screwdriver patent and plier patent and so forth. People come to the page, there's nothing about the screwdriver because you didn't write anything about the screwdriver, they go out. After 5 people do that, Google stops showing you. That's it, because you don't have a content. But you need content around the relevant keyword. What's the content you create? Remember, at the end, Google looks at how long the people stayed on your page.
Maybe a teaser?
What's in the teaser?
Like something that, a little bit information, but the person needs to make a step to find you.
I would pay someone to do it for me.
All right, since we are running out of time a little bit, I will give you the answer. So what you want is a database of information. Okay? Why? Because a database is basically a matrix, like an Excel spreadsheet. Okay? Each line is about one entity, and the columns are what you say about the entity. Let's look about the jewelry stuff. Okay? So if you create one line per whatever piece of jewelry, so you have 18-inch necklace and 20-inch necklace and 22-inch necklace, and you can say it is silver or gold, it has a pendant with this stone or that stone. Basically, it's a database that probably you have it in your store, right? But now you create one page per line with text. It's not a database anymore. you convert it into text with a picture of that specific jewelry. So suddenly you have a page per item. And the header of the page is exactly the name of it. 18-inch necklace with a pendant, blah, blah, blah. So Google knows it exactly. And I'll give examples in here how we did it in our case. Okay? So that's the solution. You need to build a database. Of what? So let's look at companies that do it already very, very effectively and you never thought about it. Amazon. It's exactly what they do. You run anything and you will get Amazon. Why? Because they have millions and millions of pages per product with different descriptions. And why do people stay? Because they come in, that's the product they were looking for, and they look at it. Or they start searching within Amazon, so they don't go back. LinkedIn, a page per person, right? They have hundreds of millions of pages. You type in the name of a person, you go to LinkedIn. Crunchbase, page per company. Facebook, TripAdvisor, a page per hotel, attraction, location. You start thinking the concept, okay? When you build that, TripAdvisor started with that. I knew the founder of TripAdvisor, very, very smart guy. So that's how he started. He basically just created a list of hotels, which was easy to find. And then he started to put some information about each hotel. And what happened is magic. People who came started to write reviews about the hotel. It was a great hotel, great service, lousy hotel, horrible noise from the highway, blah, 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 blah. And it became TripAdvisor, okay? Zillow. Does anybody ever heard about Zillow? Yes, what is Zillow? It's a big real estate site. So, here's the strategy. My first address in the US when I arrived in America in 1989, I lived on 46 Longwood Avenue in Brookline, Massachusetts. Very nice street, very nice area. Here's the map if anybody wants to see it. And Zillow is the first answer in Google when I typed in the address. Okay, so I typed in the address into Google, and the first response was Zillow. Why? Think about how many addresses exist in the US. Okay, so there's no way you're going to write content. You're not going to write anything. You just have a database of addresses. That's all what you have. Right? So you start with a database, and then you start aggregating more data. So they went and they found out some information, because in the registry you can find information about this address. You can find information from many places. They start adding information. So let's look at what happens. So this is the page. When you click on it, this is the page. This is where I used to live. The furniture is not mine, by the way. Okay, but I checked the pictures, and indeed that's the apartment I used to live in. And they have all kinds of information around it. So for example, they give you a zestimate, right? Zillow gives you not estimates, but zestimates of what would it cost to rent the place. And they tell you it's off market, right? Nobody's going to sell this. And the killer is this little thing, okay? Unlock owner dashboard. We give you owners the ability to upload more pictures, to do all kinds of things. So let's think about the power. They can reach every single owner in the US and tempt them to become users. That's the power of branding and long tail. How much does it cost to build it? You see, brains work better than hard work. Much better. You are here because you're brainy people, so start using your brains. Okay? So why a database? I explained each row is a table, and so forth. I won't, because we are starting to run out of time. And let's move faster, because I want to share with you, and probably the second example I won't have time, but Let's start with that. ZoomInfo. As some of you know, I'm the founder of ZoomInfo, and sold it in 2018. And since then, I just go around and talk to people and confuse them. But at the time, I was much more focused. And basically, what we have at ZoomInfo is we sell information to marketing and salespeople. And what is the information? It's basically databases about companies and the people who work for those companies. Today, it's obvious to people you need ZoomInfo or its competitors, Lucia and Apollo and others, gazillion competitors that came up about later. And pretty much simple information, okay? So how did we create a brand? So it started in 2000 by me, and it was based on technology that we have developed. And it was a nice little company. We were selling mainly actually to recruiters. That was the first market we went after. And the reason we went after recruiters or executive search firms is because our data was lousy. And I'm the first to admit it was a horrible piece of data. But there was no alternative. That was way before LinkedIn was created. And when executive search firms wanted to find a potential VP of marketing for a software company in the Boston area, there was no way for them to create a list of candidates. And using our tool, they can just type in VP of marketing, software companies in Boston, and they would get a list. Half the list was wrong. Okay? They were not software companies, they were not VP marketing, doesn't matter, but half the list was good. And they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to find the people. So they can take a secretary and tell her, look at the junk and take out all the bad ones and just create a list of the good ones. Okay, that was easy enough for them. And they had a list of 100 candidates, whereas before they had a list of 2. So it had tremendous value for them, and they were happy to pay us $1,000 a month. Okay? So the revenues were about 6 million by 2004. We were growing, we were profitable the way I like it, but we wanted to grow much faster. I wanted to go and get to salespeople. Remember, the product is lousy. But we wanted to go to salespeople, and we needed what I call today a growth engine. How do we get, remember, recruiters, I can get a list of executive recruiters. There aren't that many. But salespeople, everybody and his brother is a salesperson. So what we did is, how do you do that? So we made a bold decision. Remember, we had a database. To begin with, we had a database. And I said, let's go and publish our database on the web. A page per person. Well, I don't know, 20 million people in our database. I said, let's create 20 million pages. A page per person. I actually had a conversation yesterday with my co-founder, really, really smart guy. He was the CTO. And I reminded him, because we were talking about some marketing, and I reminded him that when I offered to do that, he was shocked. He was like, why would anybody be interested in our data? I mean, it makes no sense. And why do we want to put it on the internet? This is ridiculous. So we had a good laugh. Okay. What happens is that everybody here in this room, from time to time, type in the name of a person to Google. Everyone. Okay? And we wanted to show up. And the reason we could show up was that we had much more information than anybody else. So there's a good chance that on many searches we will have zero competition. Obviously, if somebody typed in Elon Musk, we will not show up first, okay? But if you type in Yonatan Stern, nobody else was caring about me, so chances are ZoomInfo will show up first. So we showed up first, or in very high positions in many, many searches. Second, we learned from somebody, actually it was Microsoft. We talked to Microsoft at the time. They were interested in what we do. And they said that remember, they had a search engine, and they said, listen, 20% of searches in Microsoft are around names of people. And I was tremendously elated about that. And I said, God, we have just the right solution for that. What they neglected to tell me, Microsoft, is that out of the 20% of searches, 19.5 were about celebrities, mainly female celebrities, okay? So since we had zero information to add about all of these celebrities or football player or whatever it is, then it was irrelevant. But even the 0.5% was good enough to generate good amount of traffic. But I remember we were so elated, 20% of searches with names of people. Yeah, absolutely. And there was no other people directory on the web. This was 2 years before LinkedIn published their directory. So here's how it looks. When we published it, why do we have this list in there? And the reason is you need to direct Google to go and read this directory. Because remember that Google needs to read it and index it. So they need to read every single page, and you needed to create like a map of how you're going to find all the people on it. Our map was about 5 levels down. People that start with A, then you go down, start with AA up to AD, then you go down, it's AAA to ADD, something, whatever it is. And when you got to it, here's the page. It looked like that. Okay? View contact info for free. That's the call to action. Okay, you see in here you have the email, you have the phone, or actually you don't, but we tell you we have it. Remember, salespeople wanted this information, email and phone number, so they click on this. So now you start seeing how you move from branding to marketing, right? So the branding is that we got our page to show up first or show up in high place. And the marketing was then when we want them to do something. We wanted them to start engaging. So that's the call to action. You can see we had many call to actions in here. All of them would get you to the same place. Okay. So we get a limited free product. Remember I talked about free products, so that's an example of we gave a free product. The free product gave you 20 searches a month, basically. Okay, it was free. And we ask you to also contribute. I won't go into it because we're starting to run out of time. So here are the results. I left ZoomInfo, I sold it in 2018. And by that time, we had 50 million pages indexed by Google. The fact that you have 50 million pages doesn't mean anything. If Google only indexed 2, that's irrelevant. Remember, at the end of the day, you have to start thinking from the other side in, not from your side out. Okay? So Google at the time indexed. There were 50 million pages that they were able to return. We got about 10 million visitors to the site every month. And it's all long tail. Okay? These 10 million people search for 10 million different names. Okay, remember that. It's a long tail. We got tens of thousands of new contributors. I won't go into what a contributor is, but people gave us data so that we can enrich our own data. And we got 20,000 inbound leads every month. 20,000 people said, we want to talk to you. And that cost us 0. Remember it? 0. We spent no money on advertising, no money on anything. They came to us and said, I need to talk to you. And we grew revenues consistently 50% year over year. Year after year after year after year. By the time I left, we did $100 million in revenues. Our customer acquisition cost was close to 0, basically 0. The sales cycle was very short. So from the time a customer said, talk to me, to the time they paid us money was anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Why? Because they already used it. They already knew from using it, from interacting with it on the internet without talking to me, what the product does. They knew exactly what it does. So they didn't have any education. And the profits grew 50% year over year. The company was insanely profitable. We were generating about 40% profits, net profits every year. And the reason for all of that is the long tail branding. Now you start seeing and understanding the value of what I'm talking about. By cracking the code, how do you get every salesman in the US to interact with you? You can generate these results. You can't generate it by writing blogs. Okay? It won't happen. So in 2019, the company was acquired by Discover.org. That was our largest competitor, biggest competitor. You better remember the name, Discover.org, because it's important. And the CEO of Discover.org ran a study. He wanted to know which brand to remain with. We were about the same size. So should he stay with Discover.org, which is the company he created, or should he use the Zoom Info brand? And here's what he heard. Our brand was 9 times more recognized than Discover.org, and that's why this Zoom Info is the company everybody knows. And I sent him flowers, and I said, thank you very much for keeping the name, because I also need a brand, right? So it was very important. By the way, the offices are in Ra'anana, on Tzomet Ra'anana. You can see a big building there. We have about 700 people in Israel, 3,000 people around the world, and it's a public company worth about $1.5 billion. So I can't be more happy. And that's the power of long-tail branding. By the way, Discover had zero branding, so we took over. That's important to remember. Okay, so I'll give another example. Does anybody here know who TikTok is? You know, right? Because you are dressed properly. I'll explain in a moment. You are dressed properly. Okay, so what TikTok does is a company that helps people, or actually people who organize events, to sell tickets. So they go on their platform, create a page. It's very easy to create a page. Say, we're going to have a concert on this date, and it's in this matnas or this hall, and a ticket is 50 shekels. Click in here, you buy a ticket, you get an electronic ticket, and everything is great. That's what they do. It's over a simple and easy way for artists and producers, mainly producers, to create an event. Create an event is basically just create a page like the advertising you see everywhere to start, and you can start selling tickets. It's a fast-growing, profitable company. No marketing. All the growth was word of mouth. But word of mouth where? So they have tzitziot outside. That's why I was joking, right? They sell mainly to Tzionut Datit. And they're well known in that area. They even have a brand for the Haredi community, and it's called Glat Ticket. They're really smart people. They have very interesting ideas. And if you go on the Glat Ticket site, you will not see pictures of women, because it's a Glat Ticket. But anyway, they're growing really, really fast. And when they wanted me to join them, I asked, well, you're fast growing, you're profitable, what do you want from me? And they said, what we want from you is that we want to become much bigger. We want to basically penetrate, all of the events that go in Israel, not just for the Tzionut Datit. Especially, we want to be able to go expand beyond Israel, and we have no clue how to do it. The phrase that they were using, which became a very important phrase in our company, is "אנחנו תקועים בשער הגיא." So we want to get to Yerushalayim, but we're stuck. We don't know how to get up there. Okay? So what did we do? Because I'm talking about long tail, I wanted to come with a long tail idea for them. And the long tail idea was to aggregate detailed information on all the events that happen in Israel. And the question is, how do you do that? It's very simple, actually, if you think about it. We build a robot that every morning goes and visits There are about 25 ticket offices in Israel, that's all. So if you have an event you want to go to, whether it's a concert or a show or whatever it is, there are 25 places where you can buy a ticket, that's it. And they all advertise what they do, obviously, right? They want to sell tickets. So we have a robot, a crawler that goes to these 25 places and take out the information every day. And we compare it. If it was the same as yesterday, we don't make a change. If there is a new event or a new show or a new concept, we add it. Okay? And when we add it, we get all the information there because they publish all of it. So we have the name of the concert or show, the lecture, whatever it is, the genre. We have the name of the artist. We have the venue, where it is, in location, city, so forth. We have a date and a time, and we have the price. We have all of this information because it's out there on the internet, except we aggregate it. So now we have a single database for every single event that happens in Israel. And we keep the history. Because remember that all of these ticket offices, they only want to show you what's current now, but they don't have the history. We keep all the history of everything. So we have a lot more data, and we can start building, for example, the life of an artist. Here are all the concerts that she gave in the last 2 years. And we can even calculate how many people saw this, because if they are in Caesarea, that's probably 15,000 people. If she's in the Matnas in Rishon, it's probably 300 people. Okay. So what did we do? Google positioning. So if we go with a guy called Avram Fried, he's actually from the Tzionut Datit. We compete with Wikipedia, YouTube, Facebook, right? And then you can see TikTok. So we are really in the most logical place after you go through places we can't compete. We're not going to compete with Wikipedia. Google will always prefer Wikipedia. Okay? If we go with somebody else, so Sarit Haddad, here's what you're going to see on TikTok. You see, that's her page on TikTok. And we have all of the information about her. We take it from Wikipedia. We give you links to everything. So we created a lot of content. And because of that, Google shows us in very good locations. But what happens when you want to buy a ticket? So you click on buy a ticket. We don't sell the tickets. It's the original office that sells the ticket. So we transfer you to the place where you can buy the ticket. But along the way, we have this pop-up that says, if you register here, we're going to notify you when Sarit Haddad shows up again in your area. And by the way, there are 3 other artists that kind of the same genre, you might like them. And do you want to be notified about them as well? So we aggregate about 1,000 names an hour. So we start building tremendous amount of information. We don't yet know a lot about these people, but it turns out this is the categories that we have: live concerts, shows, stand-up, lectures, blah, blah. Okay? You can do it by date, by city. And I want to show you what we do with this. And we have a lot of ideas what to do with it. We captured the information about the people who bought tickets. Interestingly enough, even though originally they were going after a very specific population, they also were very successful in selling their platform for matnasim and for municipalities. So if you have a concert of Aviv Geffen in Ra'anana, TikTok sells the ticket. So even though Aviv Geffen is not exactly Haredi, but we have the people who like him. So we have about 1.5 million people in database with their name, telephone number, and email address because they bought a ticket from us. If you think about the entire size of Israel, 1.5 million people who bought tickets is a very, very large number. If you take out all the kids below the age of 10 and so forth and so on. We also developed what we call the thermometer. If we have a show for Aviv Geffen, I can figure out who might like Aviv Geffen, because if there are 3 other artists that are similar, because we know the same people who were looking all of that, we can start creating a list of all the people who ever went to a concert of Aviv Geffen, and then we figure out from that, very much like in Netflix, people who like this also like that, right? In Google, in Amazon and so forth, it's not a very sophisticated process. So we can create a list of people that are likely like this. So we have a promotion. And what we do is we offer to the producer and we say, by the way, you know, you just created this show. We think we can sell 100 tickets right off the bat. And usually we take 5% commission. If you want us to push those tickets, then for those that we created, we want to take 10% commission. So that's already generating 100,000 shekels a month, and we just launched it about a month ago. So it shows you how it's not just a brand, and we get a fairly good brand. It also starts to generate ideas how to make money that didn't exist before. Here's another idea that we haven't yet launched, but we're thinking about it. Because we have so much information about the artists, and we know a list of all the people who already like that artist, so what we want is to build a tool for the artists. Kind of a homepage updated daily with all the information about all the shows and everything we can show. But the most interesting thing is we want to build a tool for the artist to communicate with their fans. Okay, so today you buy a ticket, you go to the concert, and you leave the concert. That's about your entire interaction. Nothing beyond that. But what if we had interaction? So, for example, at the end of the show, you get an SMS and say, can you please tell me how much did you like the show? Which songs did you like the most? Was it good? Enjoyed? Would you recommend it? Something. How would you react if at the end of the show you get a message of interaction? Or another thing, okay? I go with my wife. It is our anniversary. And we go to the show. And suddenly the artist says, the next song is dedicated to Ziva Stern for her anniversary. How much would my wife pay for it? All I'm trying to tell you is that the moment you start thinking differently about what you do, and you start building databases, the opportunity to make money from it just keeps popping up. Okay, so it's a very different way of thinking about what you do. It's not about the product you build, it's about how you're going to sell it. Okay, that's it. Thank you.